Well, hello, friend, and welcome back to another episode of the Western Hippie Podcast. I'm your host, Michaela, here with my corgis, Tank and Willie. And today we are going to make the second foundational episode. If you have not heard of the first foundational episode that I recorded, it is not the last episode, but the episode prior titled How We Think is Greater Than and More Important Than What We Think. And my inspiration behind these foundational episodes is I'm going to give you a little backstory because if you know me, you know I always have to give a little bit of a backstory. And the backstory is I've really been sitting and contemplating on what is my goal in everything that I teach and everything that I am helping my clients, myself, and my friends and family with. What is my true goal and what is my true desire? And it is that we are not reliant on anyone to get the desired result that we want. I never want anyone's life or anyone's animal's life to be at stake because they don't have access to something that is really important to me. And so I want to create these foundational episodes because these foundational episodes are going to be something someone can come back to, and they can apply these foundational episodes to treat anyone or anything. Because complexity, this is something I learned when I was in my personal development era. Complexity is the enemy of execution. And I really do believe a lot of the complication that we are seeing in the health industry, regardless of if it's with our animals in the veterinary industry or with humans in the medical industry, a lot of the complication is driving the fear. We have 10 different names for things. We have 20 different symptoms and diagnosis, and it seems so complex. But when we really break it down into small bites, the body, whether it's a human, a horse, or a dog, only creates disease for a few separate reasons. And when we drill down and we dial down to that root, we can heal anything. And so one of the things that gets talked about, and I started learning about this concept about 12 years ago when I first entered the biohacking space. And if you don't know what the biohacking space is, like, I'm going to put it into my words. If you look up the definition, it can be a few different words. I'm going to put it into my words. When I got into the biohacking space was really about taking control of your own biology, having control of what your body looks like, what you want to do with it, and then also how to hack the system, meaning how do we treat our body in a way that gets us the most optimal result that we desire, and maybe even a more optimal result than we desire. And so in that, inflammation was talked about a lot, and inflammation is still talked about a lot. But what the foundation we're going to lay here today that I don't hear people talking about a lot is people will talk about inflammation and then they'll start talking about how the best way is to treat inflammation. So I'm actually going to use my dog Willie as an example today. He got sick in the fall of 2022. And when he got sick in the fall of 2022, I believe he was 8 at the time. And he was still a very functional 8-year-old corgi. He could still jump on things. I could tell he was getting a little stiff, was having a little arthritis, but he was still jumping in. I have a pickup truck and he would use the stool or the running board, but he could still jump in the truck. As a corgi, it's a Ford F3 1-ton F350 1-ton pickup. So it's not a small mid-size pickup. It is a full-size pickup. And with the running board, he could still jump in by himself. He gets sick and he goes from still being able to jump in the truck to I have to go help him stand up just to get outside. Like once he got moving, he was okay. But to actually get up, he had so much pain in his back that I would have to help get him up. And then once he got moving, he was okay. But to be honest with you, that was very traumatizing for me. It was very traumatizing for me to have a dog who could still jump in my vehicle to me having to go pick him up to go outside within a matter of 2 weeks. That was very hard on me. And I honestly at the end, honestly at that time, it felt like the end was near if his body could break down that fast. Like it terrified me. And the one thing that, a lot of times we think pain is such a bad thing, but the pain of me losing my first dog was really what pushed me to the limits to get Willie healthy again. And so I was able to use that pain to say, I've learned all this stuff in biohacking. How the heck can I apply it to my dog? Because if this was a human, there's no way I would say like, this is the end. And so now how do I start using this stuff that I learned and start applying it to him? And so the first thing I did was diet. And once I got his diet dialed in and really got all the inflammatory foods out, he was better. He was still not great. So what did I do? I bought all the joint supplements. He was on collagen. He was on HA. He was on elk velvet antler. He was on curcumin. Like I had him on all these anti-inflammatory supplements. And while he got better, he still was not great. I wasn't having to pick him up anymore, but I know my dog and I was watching him maneuver and I'm like, this isn't right. And what was most frustrating to me, again, I'd studied a ton of biohacking at this point. I'm like, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, I'm using all the best supplements. I am buying the most high end, the absolute best supplements. And there's something still not right with my dog. So I sat with it and I said, what if I'm treating the cause or what if I'm treating the effect and not the cause? And this is what inspired this foundational episode, is because even inflammation is not the cause. It is the effect. So we can have all these amazing supplements, all these amazing tools. And if we are still treating the effect, we're only going to get so many results, and the results are not going to last, because the moment the example that I really like to use, it's putting out the fire, but not stopping the arsonist. So we can have the best fire extinguishers, the best hoses for this inflammation, and it's still just putting out the fire and it's not stopping the arsonist. So that led me to the question, okay, well, what is the arsonist? And I go down a rabbit hole and I start learning about the liver, that when the liver can't get toxins out fast enough, that's what's causing inflammation in the body, because these toxins, instead of getting excreted through urine or through poop, they are now going back into the bloodstream. So a lot of people would even go, oh, okay, so the liver is the problem. And the liver is something we treat, but I actually want to take us a step further. The toxins are the problem. It's the overload of toxins in the body that the liver cannot get out that is causing the inflammation. And so that is the question in this foundational episode that I want you to start asking yourself today, because I want you to start thinking this way as well. Not what is inflammation, what is the problem, but what is causing the inflammation. So if we look at arthritis, we can call that inflammation of the joints. We can call Cushing's or any kind of like thyroid problem, like inflammation of the thyroid, inflammation of the pituitary gland. And then an overloaded liver can be inflammation of the liver. Lymph issues, that's too much inflammation in the lymph. And so again, a lot of schools of thought are going to go to treat the lymph, treat the joints. And we want to keep going back a step further. Okay, well, what is even causing this inflammation in the first place? Because we want to get to the cause. Because when we heal the cause, when we heal the root, that is when the body will heal, and that is when the problem will actually go away. So I'm studying all of this about the liver and all about the toxins and all of these things. So I decided to run my own personal experiment. And in this concept of how we think is greater than what we think, this is something I want to encourage you to do, not only with your animals, but with yourself, is start learning these things. Know your safety guidelines. I call them bumper lanes. So establish bumper lanes of, I need to know XYZ to keep my animal and I safe while I'm doing this experiment. And once I know XYZ of I can't go too far this way and I can't go too far that way, or it's going to cause more problems than solutions. That's what I call the bumper lanes. Now I'm going to run these experiments to see if they work or not. So the experiment that I decided to conduct with my dog Willie is, if it truly is the liver that is causing inflammation in his body, this backed up liver from these toxins. So better said, the toxins that are causing this arthritis in his body. If that is truly the case, then if I eliminate these toxins and I do a detox on him so his body can excrete all these toxins properly, then the inflammation in his joints should go away without the supplements. Now, Is there certain cases where maybe a little too much damage has been done and the animal still needs, or the human still needs some support like a joint supplement? Yes. And I'll give this away before I get to the bottom. The conclusion I drew was establish your baseline, get the toxins out, get the liver optimized, get the kidneys optimized. Then if you're having issues, then it's time to add a supplement, like a supplemental to support for whatever has the inflammation, whether it be thyroid, joints, liver, lymph, etc. So I take him off all the joint supplements. And by the way, this was very terrifying for me at the time because he still wasn't functioning right. So I take him off all of these supplements. I have him on a very low diet. Like, the diet was very overly simplified because I wanted his body to not spend more time. I wanted his body to spend more time healing than it was digesting. So he was on a very simplified diet. So I've got the simplified diet. I start a liver support, and I start a, heavy metal detox. The detox I actually recommend. And the one thing that I am going to tell you what the detox is. Before you start any kind of detox, the dog's body, the horse's body, your body may need to establish a baseline first. So you may need some gut support. You may need, I call it the rebuild phase. So this would be, a 10-day to 2-week time where it's just good food and gut support. Willie had already had all that. Like, I was already doing all that. So at this point it was safe to start the detox. So like, if the body is anemic, you don't want to go straight into a detox because pulling heavy metals out of the body can actually make us more anemic. So during a rebuild phase, for example, I would do, a very simplified diet like I did with Willie. I would do some gut support, and then I would do some stuff to start rebuilding the blood before I did the detox. I just want to put that in as a little bit of a disclaimer. Willie had already had all of that. I was already doing all of that. So it was safe for me to start him on a detox. And I use the cellular detox. From Herbs of the World. Herbs of the World has a cellular detox for horses and dogs. I believe she has one for humans, but I am not 100% positive. Her name is Laurel at Herbs of the World. She's absolutely amazing. If you called her and you wanted one for yourself, I'm sure she would mix it together. She's a small farmer up in Idaho, and she's just absolutely amazing. So I wanted to give her a shout out. So I purchased her cellular detox, which has liver support, but it also has stuff like zeolite to help pull, zeolite will pull, heavy metals out of the body. It'll start pulling glyphosate out of the body. Like, it's really amazing. So I put him on the cellular detox. I start liver support. And then I went to something called the EE system that will also help rebuild organs. I do all of this. And now Willie is only on one joint supplement. It's actually, I'll link this below. It's called Epigenius for dogs. It has joint support. It has gut support. It has vitamin and mineral support. I do that as like a daily vitamin senior support for him because he will be 12 this March. He is off everything else. And when I took him off all that stuff, did this liver experiment, he went back to energetic. He still does not jump in the truck. I kind of think it's more of, when he got hurt, he tried jumping in the truck and failed so many times. I kind of think that is more it, but he jumps on the couch again. And he's also 4 years older than when he got sick. So that is part of the equation as well. But after doing that experiment, it proved my theory. It proved my theory to be true. And so now I always start with like looking at the toxins. So this is the foundational way of thinking. We want to keep going back to what is causing this, not what is this, but what is causing this, because we want to get to the root. We want to treat the cause so that the body can heal at a root level. So we're treating the issue and not just the side effects. Again, we want to stop the arsonist. We don't just want to keep putting out the fires. And a lot of these schools of thinking, we're just putting out the fires, but we're not actually stopping the arsonist. So I just really wanted to make this episode to start getting you to ask different questions about whatever ailment either you or your animal is experiencing. So I keep coming back to the liver. Everything that I do keeps coming back to the same foundational things. Is the gut good? Is the liver optimized? That's what I keep coming back to in all sorts of inflammation, whether it's inflammation of the heart, the joints, the lymph, the thyroid. For me, it keeps coming back to the liver because the liver is such a key detoxifier. And again, What slows down and makes a stagnant liver? Excess toxins. And toxins can be in the form of inflammatory foods. It could be in the form of heavy metals. It can be in the form of emotional toxins, which is something I've been diving more into the last couple of years, is learning how emotions are energy in motion. And when our body isn't circulating properly, that means that there's stagnant energy in the body, meaning these trapped emotions in the body. There's a book called The Emotion Code, which breaks it down really well. And so, again, I want you to be so well equipped that you feel confident in tackling any health problem, whether it be your horse, your dog, or your human, yourself, or your friend. Because when we have this confidence, I truly believe that is how we reach sovereignty, is having confidence over our own health. And that's why these foundational videos and podcast episodes are so important to me, because I want you to feel that sense of sovereignty and confidence in tackling any health problem that comes your way. So that is the second foundational episode, is really getting to the question of what is causing these things. And you may come to a different conclusion than me. That's okay, because we all have different ways of looking at things. And it is really important that we develop a way of thinking that helps us get to the root cause of any ailment, any issue we are experiencing. We are just specifically talking in health, but this can also apply to financial areas of life, relationship areas of life. How do we get to the root cause of any problem we are experiencing in our lives, and not just continually treating the symptom, which puts us in a loop, a deja vu, where we keep experiencing the same thing over and over again. That's a loop that I am breaking, and that is a loop that I want you to break too. So that concludes this foundational episode of the Western Hippie Podcast. Next week, we have Dr. Mark DiPaolo coming on the podcast to talk about ozone therapy for horses. We also tapped into ozone therapy for dogs, his product Ozactin, and why ozone, when mixed with glycerin, actually makes ozone more powerful. I absolutely loved my conversation with him. I am so excited to bring that episode to you. So make sure you are subscribed wherever you are listening, so you get access to that episode the moment that it drops. And Dr. Mark and I've talked to a few people. If you are interested, send me an email at Michaela@michaelamay.com. Dr. Mark and I may host a live Q&A if there is enough interest. So if you have interest in that, please send me an email, and him and I will get that set up so we can do a live Q&A about ozone therapy. He does not do cats, but he does dogs and horses. He also has hair analysis for dogs and horses, where you can send a hair mineral analysis sample in to find out what nutrients your horse or dog are deficient in. And his company will actually make a vitamin supplement specifically for your dog or horse to get their body's nutrients back up to balance. He's doing some really amazing things. When I got into biohacking 12 years ago, I wish I would have known about his company for my horses, because when I got into this for humans, there was very little stuff for humans, and now the human market in this has exploded, and I believe the animal market is right behind, and Dr. Mark and his company, I really feel, are leading the way on a lot of this stuff. So I'm very excited to bring that to you. Make sure you're subscribed so you get notified when that episode drops. If you have any other episodes you would like to see, again, you can email me, Michaela@michaelamay.com. Until then, thank you for listening to this episode of the Western Hippie Podcast, and myself and my boys and I will talk to you next week.